Now I have two stories. Both are about a deaf woman in New York City, but something happened differently in both stories. So, in the first story, on September 11th, 2011, a deaf woman named Dana Williams, she was from Staten Island in New York, and she had a home, and she had several renters living in her home. There was one tenant who was trouble and she wanted to evict him. So she decided to call 911 to help evict that person. And most people that lived in her home were deaf. And police rules state that if a person is deaf, then they need to call an interpreter. So when the cop arrived to the house, he did not call an interpreter. He blamed both Miss Williams and the other person for fighting. He blamed them both. The cop's name was Christian Romano, and he did not know any sign language, no skills whatsoever. But he arrested both individuals. And as he was filling out the arrest paperwork for Williams, there was a section in the form that says, "Do you need an interpreter?" And it had the option of yes or no. And the officer checked no. And the other paper for the arrest, it says, "Does this person that you arrested have a disability? Are they deaf, blind, so on and so forth?" Check yes or no. And this officer checked no. But they were deaf. And that particular deaf person kept, informing the cop, "Hey, I need an interpreter." And they were just being ignored. They even wrote a complaint on the window that said HOSP ... They were trying to get the attention. Hey, I need to go to the hospital. I need to. And the cop continued to ignore it for 24 hours. And the deaf person still said, "Hey, we need an interpreter." So the two deaf individuals decide to sue because they were ignored. The cops should have followed the rules. They didn't do anything. They didn't call an interpreter at all. So let me tell you what happened. They definitely sued on October 27th. It was very recent. New York City agreed, and they paid them $750,000. They signed the paperwork, and they took the money. So I hope going forward in all across the United States that people understand that you need to follow the rules for deaf people and hire and bring an interpreter so the communication access is there. And the lawyer under the Law Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing commented that he thinks that all that money is a lot of money. But the city and the government, they all agreed to pay that large lump sum of money. Okay, so let's talk about the second story. And this happened in 2015 on September 21st. A deaf woman, April, she's 53, she went to Manhattan Family Court. She was having a dispute because they took her daughter because she had rights and she wanted to keep her daughter in her home. So after everything was discussed, she left and they made a complaint. But you broke someone. So they protected her and told her to leave. You broke. You're not supposed to have contact with the person. They arrested her. She's like, "What? Why are you arresting me?" And there was absolutely no explanation given to the woman. They did not call an interpreter or anything. You know the Miranda rights that cops are required to say? You've seen them on TV. You have the right to a lawyer. You have the right to remain silent. If you talk, it can be used against you in the court of law. We can sue you. You know those Miranda rights? They should have been recited to her when she was arrested, but they were not explained to her. You have to make sure that you understand it when you're being arrested. Do you wish to speak or do you wish to remain quiet? And they did not ask her. And the cops went and arrested her anyways. They took her to the Bronx County Jail. And when she got there, they asked her, "Are you deaf?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm deaf." And he went, "Oh." He didn't say anything. He didn't call an interpreter. He didn't bring a pen and pad to write. Absolutely nothing was done. She was just in jail for 2 hours. So another correction officer in central booking, where they do the fingerprints and the pictures, the mugshots. After that was done, she was there all night. And then again, she requested and insisted, "I need an interpreter," but she was still ignored. It's like they all refused to pay attention to me. So 21 hours later, they decided to bring an interpreter, finally. So on September 7th, she sued them. She sued the New York Police Department because they did not provide an interpreter. And the lawyer that helped the woman in the first case, the Center Law Firm for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, that same firm represented her and sued them. And again, this was just in October. It was the same woman. The City for Children's Services know that she's deaf, and they went to her home to have a conversation with her, and they did not provide an interpreter. And they gave her all these rules that she needed to follow so she could keep her daughter, but yet they did not provide an interpreter so she could fully understand all these requirements to keep her daughter in her home. And the lawyer said, "This is not something new that's happening. It's been happening for so long." In 2009, there was a complaint against the NYPD and the Department of Justice. We have already signed that they had agreed that they were going to improve their services for deaf people, that they will. But the same problem are still happening even though they've agreed to improve. They violated those deaf persons' rights, and it happened in court. One Finnish woman sued and won, and the same thing happened. Is she going to get money? Well, it's too soon to see. But it happens many times for deaf individuals. My friend, a long time ago in Texas, it was a very long time ago, my friend stayed in jail for 3 days and they didn't have any access to an interpreter. Wow.